Okay. Hey peoples. Hi, Instagram friends. Hello, my dear friends from Facebook, and hello, Zoom. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you again. Welcome, everyone. Let me turn this. There's a chat over here. Greetings from Palm Desert. That's nice. Wow, that's a nice place to be. Palm Desert, California. Delicious. Welcome back. Thank you, everyone. Okay. We have a fascinating conversation today. Not an easy one. Not an easy one. We'll get going right away. The topic today, my dear friends, hope you're all doing well and you're safe. Hi, Flora. Welcome. I'm getting some nice waves from people on social media. That's nice. The topic today, my dear friends, is pretty big. Actually, it's so big, it even made the top 10. Not David Letterman's top 10, but the top 10 of the 10 Commandments. The Aseret HaDibrot. Because if you were to go through the 10 Commandments, which follow, for the most part, understandable things that you would have expected to be pulled out and made part of our 10 Commandments. Don't kill, don't steal, believe in one God, no other gods, honor your mother and father, okay, being a truthful witness in a court of law. So these kind of like make sense, and yet you get to the end of the 10 Commandments, number 10 of 10, which people in our society think, well, if it's number 10 of 10, then it's the least important of the all 10. There are Jewish commentators, the Ramban himself, who says the fact that it's number 10 actually means it's probably the most important. So what is number 10 of the 10 Commandments? Do not be jealous. Lo tachmod. I know this because the 10 Commandments are written twice in the Torah, one to the Torah portion of Yitro, and one to the Torah portion of Vetchanan. And Parsha Yitro was my bar mitzvah parsha. So I remember reading it, not knowing what I was reading, just learning it mechanically, and yet many years later, when I started to delve into it, I came across the 10 Commandments, like, oh, I remember how to read that from the Torah. I did it in front of hundreds of people. And number 10 is don't be jealous. Now, you can tell me not to kill. You can tell me not to steal. You can tell me to testify truthfully in a court of law. You can tell me to keep Shabbat. You can tell me to do a lot of things. And you can mandate those things because those are all physical actions. And yet, we get to number 10 of the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, and suddenly we're being told to command an emotion. Now that is weird. How can you command an emotion? How can God put in the Torah that you have to not kill and steal? And by the way, don't be jealous. I mean, how do you even enforce such a law? I mean, could you imagine that in society today? I'm driving around the street and I see someone driving a beautiful, I don't know, Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice car. I wish I had that. All of a sudden, behind me I hear, woo, 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 woo. I get pulled over. A cop pulls me over and says, excuse me, sir, were you looking at that big, beautiful, red, shiny Ferrari? I'm like, yes. Did you covet your neighbor's Ferrari? And I'm like, I did actually. I actually want to get rid of my car, the Honda, and take that car instead. He's like, I'm going to have to give you a ticket. We all know the 10th of the 10 Commandments is, don't be jealous. You're jealous, here's your ticket. It's absurd. How can you enforce an emotion, a feeling, a mental desire? That's very unusual. And yet, the Torah does. And the Torah tells us not to covet, not to desire things that belong to other people. Now, even that needs to be understood. What's the problem? Why can't I look at that person's house, that person's car, that person's business, that person's field, that person's wife or husband, and be like, I wish I had that? That's a serious question, by the way. Many commentators are very confused by this law, and some have to say, you know what? Desiring that person's stuff isn't bad. It's when you go after it, that person's actual possession, that it becomes an avera, it becomes a sin, and it becomes a problem. Maybe. Some say no. Just wanting that thing itself is going to be a big problem. Now, my friends, the fact that we have 613 mitzvot and 10 were extracted and set into stone as opposed to being written on parchment, on cloth in Hebrew, means there's something about these 10 which are not per se different, but really, really makes them into their own realm of knowledge and understanding. And when something is written on parchment with ink, that parchment and ink can wear away. But when something is drilled into stone, as the English expression speaks of as well, it must be something very, very important, that it's being etched into the luchot, into the stone itself. There's something about this law and the other 9 that precede it that are so fundamental that they had to be put and set into motion in a completely different form. So this is what we're going to look at today. We're going to talk about jealousy. Now, there's something which I've mentioned a number of times as well, which is going to apply here just as equally as all the other conversations we've had. And that is, there is no such thing as a bad character trait. I'll say that again. There is no such thing as a bad character trait. What are you saying? Jealousy is good, Rabbi? Are you saying it's good to be jealous? And the answer is yeah. There are times when jealousy is a good thing. When is that? When your jealousy motivates you to want to become a better person. When your jealousy is giving you the wherewithal to want to improve yourself and to go after goals and have a vision of what you see yourself being in the future. There's even an expression in biblical Hebrew for this. Actually, maybe not biblical, probably a little bit later, but it works. And that is kinat sofrim, actually more rabbinical Hebrew. Kinat sofrim, which means being jealous of a scholar. That expression is used to describe good jealousy. I was going to do quote marks, but there are no quote marks. Good jealousy. Good jealousy is that I see someone who does something better than me, who works harder than me, who prays better than me, who makes more money, whatever it is. And I'm looking at them, wow, I want to be like them. I don't want to be them, but I want to be like them. Will I get the same results as them through my efforts? Maybe yes, maybe no. That we're going to talk about. But I'm going to be motivated. So jealousy is not a bad character trait. It's a good trait. God doesn't just give us bad traits and be like, oh, good luck with that. God gives us certain traits. Innately, we Jews believe a person can be born with a certain set of traits that make you individual, make you who you are, and are there, most importantly, to help you fulfill your mission in this world. Everyone has exactly the tools they need. That's just being born. That's the nature. Then you have all the nurture stuff, the parents you have, and the family, and the friends, and the teachers, and the relationships, and all that builds up as well. And all of that comes from God as well. But ultimately, you're born with certain traits. There are no, God doesn't just make you be born with bad traits. He gives you traits. They are neither good nor bad. They just are. Now, how are you going to apply them? Some people are born with a jealous trait. Does that mean they're destined to be jealous of other people and never happy with what they have? And the answer is possibly. Or they can use that trait to look at others and be like, wow, I want to be like that. I wish I could work like that. I wish I had that relationship that person's working on, that he's or she has perfected themselves in. So jealousy is good. What we're going to try to figure out today is when it goes bad, how to avoid that, and how to take that small window of opportunity in order to make it into a good and positive life nurturing force, because we all feel it. Ultimately, and this is so true for 2020, more than any other time in history, that what we are all doing is given a lot more of an opportunity than our ancestors to see what everybody else has and say, that's what I want. Now that can be problematic because we have this thing called social media. And social media is based upon the premise that I'm going to show you a lot of stuff. I'm going to show you a lot of advertisements. I read recently, your average child today sees 2,000 plus advertisements or somebody trying to sell something to them subliminally or not every single day. That's more than our great-grandparents or even grandparents received in their lifetime. People cramming images, ideas, and thoughts and products down their throats every single day. Now, for a young, developing mind, that's very, very difficult. Because why should they be happy with what they have when it seems like everybody else, which isn't true, of course, but it seems like everybody else is having such a better time with what they have? And then by definition, shouldn't I really want what they have, which will make me happy? When that young child, that young, innocent child sees that Coca-Cola commercial and everybody is there smiling and happy, drinking their Coke, which is whatever it is, because it destroys their bodies and their teeth, right? But they always look beautiful. Chances are the people that use the advertisements don't regularly drink those sodas, right? Because they look like they're in shape and healthy. And they all look so good. And so everyone immediately looks at those images and they're like, wow, I want to look like that guy or girl in that Coca-Cola or that Mountain Dew, right? Dew, right? Not Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew commercial. And if I drink that, then I will look like them. The exact opposite is true. If you drink that, I mean, I think like Mountain Dew actually looks like toxic waste, yeah? But when I look at that, I'm saying, wow, if I drink that, I'll be them. So we've created, the whole advertising world and now social media especially, has created a world of comparison. And in the world of addictions, they have a beautiful expression, in recovery, I should say, of addiction recovery. Compare leads to despair. I'll say that again. Compare leads to despair. When we spend our entire lives, which is becoming extremely difficult to avoid, comparing ourselves to other people. If I had those eyes, then I could be me. If I could dance like that, then I could be me. If I had a job like that, a boyfriend like that, a nose like that, hair like that, or hair at all, then I could be me. But until I have those things, I'm never going to be happy. It's very, very difficult. And we're all victims to this, right? Myself as well. We're constantly looking and comparing ourselves to things that we are not meant to be like. Now that's important. Not meant to be like. I want to go back, if you will, and I want to discuss this topic if Jessica, my dear friend, who works with me at Safra and Chazak, New York, reminds me. I want to talk about the Ten Commandments in a lot more detail, but I want to give you a visual representation of this idea, okay? So let's talk about the Ten Commandments 1 second, because we find, don't be jealous, we said, an emotion at the end of the Ten Commandments is number 10. And we mentioned that just because it's number 10, that doesn't mean it's the 10th least important. Says the Ramban, the fact that it appears as number 10 means it is the most important, because he sees the Ten Commandments as actually building themselves above each other. The top floor is Anoch Hashem Elokech, I'm the Lord your God. Floor number 2 is Lo Yalacha, you should not have any other gods. And it goes through, and then it comes Shabbat, and then it goes to honor your mother and father, and then don't kill and don't steal, and then it ends up don't be jealous. Which means number 10 is actually the most important because it's the foundations of all the other 9. If 1 and 2 fall off, we can get them back. But if number 10 is uprooted, all the other 9 fall down. Think of the Ten Commandments as a building. If you lose the foundations, they all fall down. And that's what the Ramban, Nachmanides, says. He says if you are subjected to being jealous all the time and wanting what other people have, which aren't meant to be yours, you'll eventually start to steal. And then you're going to want to commit adultery with somebody else's wife or husband, because why don't I have that? and then you're going to end up not keeping Shabbat somehow, and then not believing there's a God, and everything else is going to fall away. So the fact that don't be jealous is number 10 actually means it's the most important of all the 10. It's the foundations of and by the way, the 10 Commandments are really a capitalization, a crunch down of all 613 mitzvot. Every other mitzvah in the Torah is founded in these 10, which means of all the emotions that we have, jealousy could well be the most important. Could well be the most important, working on this one trait. Now, there is no easy solution to this. There is no easy solution. Now, we mentioned that commandment number 10 is don't be jealous. If you remember, if you walk into any synagogue pretty much in the entire world, you'll see the image of these 10 commandments usually depicted on the wall. Now, usually they appear like this kind of like mound. You know what I'm talking about? You've seen it before, yeah? With a flat bottom and two sides to it. Well, for your information, that was not the original design of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments was not shaped like a famous fast food restaurant. That was a much later design. I read an article in some scholarly journal, if you're interested. That design could well have been actually designed by a non-Jewish person. The original design, anybody know? Was 2 blocks, 2 square blocks that were separate and disconnected from each other. And the design of these 10 Commandments are almost as important as what's written in them. I say in them because the words were chiseled out inside the stone. Why is the design of the 10 Commandments so important? And what's it going to teach us? Well, let's break it down like this and we'll bring it back to our topic. The first 10 Commandments are what we call in Hebrew, Ben Adam Le Makom, between us and God. Those are the first 5. The second 5 are Ben Adam Le Chavero, between us and our fellow man. That makes sense. Then why couldn't God have taken one big block and written them all out 1 through 10 on one big block of stone? Why do we need 2? So I always thought, we're Jewish. Hey, they're on sale. I'll take 2. It's like Jews go to Costco. I can't leave with 1 product. I need to leave with 5,000, or why was I visiting? But that's not the real answer. The real answer why the 10 Commandments are put on 2 separate stones is to teach us an incredibly important lesson. Listen well, my friends. And that is, we have 2 areas of relationship, 2 main areas that we need to work on. Our relationship to God, which is the first set, which is uniquely a personal thing that we have to work on. And then you have another set, which are separate but equal. That's why they're put next to them. If they were put below, if the second set, which are Bein Adam Lachaveru, between us and each other, were put below, what would you have thought? Just the design itself would be telling us that these 5 between us and God are more important than these 5 which are between us and each other. And so God says they're very important. I want to teach you about 2 important relationships. The relationship we have between us and God, the first 5, separate but equal, that's why they're put next to each other, is our relationship to each other. And therefore, I've met many people over the years who be like, you know, Rabbi, I'm a very, very good person. I treat other people with respect. I don't keep Shabbat or kosher. Stop doing me and God. I don't pray. I don't get involved in any of that. But I'm nice to people. And I'm like, that's great. But you're only following 5 of the 10 Commandments. There's another side which is equal. And then there's some people who are extremely pious, supposedly, very religious people. And they pray and keep Shabbat and kosher. But when it comes to treating other people well, they treat them like garbage. They cheat them in business. They're rude. They're nasty. They're also missing half of the entire Torah, because the second 5 are between us and each other. And if they're just doing the stuff between them and God, they're missing the other 5 on the other side. Not killing and not stealing and being truthful. And of course, not being jealous. And so now we have 2 separate but equal realms. The design of the 10 Commandments are there to tell us we have 2 separate but equal areas of Jewish life that we need to work on. Now, based upon that, we are not only going to make, listen very carefully, a vertical connection between the Ten Commandments, we can also make a horizontal connection. Follow me to the end, you'll see how this comes together beautifully. That means that not only is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connected to each other between us and God, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 connects to each other between us and each other. But the fact that put next to each other means that actually you can connect them horizontally as well. That means commandment number 1 is connected to 6, 2 to 7, 3 to 8, 4 to 9, and 5 to 10. Now, I'm going to do another class going through this horizontal connection. It's a fascinating connection, and you can learn a vast amount about Jewish life and Jewish thought based upon the horizontal connection. But for today's purpose, in the short amount of time we have, I want to get to the last 2, because the last 2 are going to be connected. Now, we already said the number 10 is Lo tachmod. Don't covet things that don't belong to you. If that's true, then we can travel sideways to the first 5 and see what commandment number 5 is. And by seeing commandment number 5, we can connect the 2. What's commandment number 5 of the 10 Commandments? Anybody know? So commandment number 5 is honor your father and your mother. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. That's interesting. Commandment number 5 is honoring your mother and father. Commandment number 10 is don't be jealous. They are put next to each other so that those 2 are connected. Those 2 are connected. As a side point, isn't number 5 on the wrong side? Didn't we say that the second side, the second luchot, the second luach, the second of the 10 Commandments are all between us and each other? Then honoring your mother and father shouldn't be on the side between us and God. It should be on the side between us and each other, because our parents are just humans. So what exactly is honoring your mother and father doing in the first set of 5 commandments, which are mitzvah between us and God? And the answer, say the commentators, is so important. When you're honoring your parents, you are actually honoring God. Because when it comes to it, your parents are like mini gods. They created you. Actually, your parents and God created a shutfut in Hebrew, which means a partnership. They created the physical body and God put in the soul. So when you're actually honoring your mother and father, there's a lot more to say on this. We'll leave it aside though. I'll come back to it maybe next week. When you honor your mother and father, you are actually honoring God, because your parents are mini versions of God. And a lot of our relationship to God and actually to each other is based upon our relationship to our parents. That's why all these people are struggling through therapy. And the first thing any good therapist says is, tell me about the relationship to your parents. What's it got to do with them? What has that got to do with them? I said, I'm having trouble in work, finances, relationships. It all comes down to your parents, because your parents are the core of who you are. They're like gods to you. Small g, but gods nonetheless. And that's why trying to build a good relationship with our parents is crucial in our connection to God. It's like it's us, our parents, and then Hashem, God. We have to kind of go through them. And of course, the traditions and the religion that we are comes through our parents as well. It's not a coincidence. Okay, let's come back. Stick with me. This is going to make a lot of sense. Commandment number 5 is honor your mother and father. Commandment number 10, which is next to it, is don't be jealous. What's the connection? Why would I want to connect don't be jealous with my parents? Well, the answer is so important. Where do we get everything that we are? We already said, our parents. Our parents don't just feed us and clothe us and take care of us as we grow up, right? Until we're 20 years old, or if we're Jewish, 35 years old. That's not just what parents are for. Parents really are the core of everything we are. Without our parents, we're nothing. Our entire genetic makeup, right? Everything about us, physically and psychologically, not just the way they brought us up, not just the nature, right? So not just the nurture, but the nature as well, right? We are genetically, boom, from both of our parents. If that's true, we're being told, when you look at somebody else and you're like, wow, I wish I had that. What you're actually not doing is honoring your mother and father, because your mother and father are the people who really decide who you are, whether they know it or not. The upbringing you have, the education, your looks, everything about you comes from your parents. So what you're really saying is I'm not happy with who I am. That's the problem with jealousy. Jealousy isn't per se a problem of you looking at other things and say, I want that thing. The problem is you are not happy with who you are. And you're told, don't be jealous on your mother and father. How many of us be like, well, we've all thought it. I wish my father was Jeff Bezos. Can you imagine? Just ask him for a few $1 billion. Or maybe you're a great spirit. I wish my father was the rabbi of the community. I wish my father and mother were normal people. And here's the most important thing. This is so important. I wish everyone would hear these words. If they did, it could change their lives. The parents you have are not a coincidence. They were given to you. And you as a parent, the children that you have, is not a coincidence either. It wasn't like God can't just turn around and be like, okay, fine, we have this couple over here, the Cohens, let's just give them these kids. It doesn't work that way. Everything was planned. God knows exactly who to give which children to. So the parents you have and everything that comes with that, good and bad. And believe me, as a parent I can say, we don't know what we're doing. Right? As I always say, having kids makes you into a great parent, like having a piano makes you into a great pianist. There is no connection. There is no connection whatsoever. Right? We don't know what we're doing. Any parent knows that. We just kind of like winged it. Right? By the third or fourth kid, we started to maybe work it out. But then it was too late. And so the most important thing is that the parents you have in the upbringing, the nature, the natural side of you, the DNA, and your whole makeup, the psychological, and the nurture, everything that you were given or not given, it happened for a purpose. God knows exactly what you need. So commandment number 10 isn't just saying, don't look at that and want that thing. It's not saying, maybe it's not even saying that at all. What it's saying is, what you have is what you're meant to have. Can you strive for more? Yes. And if you insist on trying to get it, it's not going to work out for you. You can attempt and you can try to grow as a person. You can try to grow financially, psychologically, right? Genetically. You can try. I can't change yourself genetically, but maybe some people are predisposed to, I don't know, an unhealthy heart. Maybe they're predisposed to being overweight. That could be genetically. That doesn't mean you have to be that way. It just means you have to work harder to overcome it. You're going to have to do more. It's not fair. How come he gets the naturally, I don't know, money or health or whatever it is? And the answer is, I don't know. But God knows exactly the right family you were meant to be in at the right time. And by the way, not only your parents and not only your children, also your siblings, especially your older brothers or sisters, whose job it is to drive you crazy. We know what they're about. It's no coincidence. It's all for a reason. And your brother-in-laws and your sister-in-laws, there is no coincidence. All these people have found themselves in your life, not by coincidence. They are all by design. And actually, by godly, divine design. That's what's happening, my friends. Now, with that information on board, let's go back to our original topic. And that is, don't be jealous. What that is telling us is a lot more than don't look at that person's whatever, right? House, car, nose, body, property, pocketbook, it's all the same. And say, I wish I had that. It's coming from a much deeper place. It's coming from a place of you not realizing, me not realizing, all of us not appreciating, maybe we realize it but don't appreciate it, that we are given the natural and nurture abilities to become great people. That's what we are given. And we are given that at birth, and we are given it every single day. What we're meant to do is take the raw materials that we have and try to make them better. We're saying basically a very important expression that maybe some of you haven't heard, but those people who've been through yeshiva have heard a lot of times. Hashgacha pratit. Hashgacha pratit. There is a God, and God is mashgiach. He is in charge of everything. Everything that we have, everything that we need, everything that we want, God knows exactly what it is. Sometimes we get, sometimes we don't get. That depends on the person and the time. But we have to realize something called hashgacha. There is no coincidence. If I don't have that thing, it could well be I'm not meant to have that thing. And spending my entire life chasing these things could be detrimental to my spiritual self. And that's why don't be jealous appears in the Ten Commandments. It isn't just an emotion. It's a whole way of looking at the world. If we spend our entire life saying, I wish I had that so I could be me. I wish I could look like that. I wish I could dance. I wish I could think. I wish I could... There's always going to be better looking people than you. I know it's bad news to some of you. There's always going to be people with better parents. There's always going to be people with better siblings, people with better brains and better minds and better thoughts. There are always going to be. What we are meant to do is realize they have what they have, and I have what I have. They need what they have. And by the way, let's not forget something very important. You don't see what's happening behind closed doors. I know in social media and life and advertising, we have this sheen, right? This cover that is put over the front of all these people's lives and looks amazing. And then as a rabbi, many times I'm pulled in, as it were, proverbially speaking, behind closed doors to get to hear of challenges people have. Believe me, everyone has their baggage. I don't care how good their life looks. I don't care how amazing everything is. They all have baggage. Okay? We've all got challenges. And if you saw, and I mean this sincerely, if every one of you watching right now saw not just the good stuff that they're presenting to you outside their front door, but all the bad, difficult challenges, the health and the family and the kids and the money and all the other problems that everyone has to deal with. If you saw all of that, you'd be like, you know what? I'll stick with what I have. Thank you very, very much. Most people would not change what they have if they knew that everybody else is a full and complete package. It's not just the good stuff. So lo tachmod, don't cover up people's things, is telling me a number of things. God's in charge. He gave you the parents, which means everything you have up to this point in your life, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all of that's part of it. Don't be jealous and say, I need that thing, because you're not getting the full picture. Just go beneath the surface, not even deep beneath the surface. Have a conversation with some of these people, and I know people are extremely wealthy. Some of them are very, very good friends of mine. Believe me, on the surface, it looks amazing. But once you go beneath the surface, they have their challenges too. And you think you could handle all of that success, you're going to have to deal with all their failures as well. It's a package deal. That's the way it works. All the good stuff you look at also comes with all the struggles up to that point and then onwards. And if you were to see all of the struggles, the chances are you would say, you know what? I'll stick with my stuff. I don't want to deal with their struggles, and I don't want to deal with their success either, because it's always a package. And if you know me, I want to just finish, if I may, with just one last thing when it comes to marriages. Now, this is a whole talk in of itself. I want to word this correctly and very carefully. One of the forms of lo tachmod the Torah speaks about, and is a major challenge, especially today, is the breakdown of the family unit and the divorces that we're seeing around us all the time, and the struggles that husbands and wives are having. A lot of this, I believe, this part you can take or leave, but I believe this to be true from my personal experience of working with people and being married, is we're looking at other people saying, wow, I wish my husband was like that. I wish my wife was like that. Physically, emotionally, psychologically. And everyone seems to be comparing. Compare leads to despair. It looks like their marriage is fantastic. They're dealing with stuff as well. You're doing yourself and your relationship a big disservice. I don't want to say ditching, but thinking that everything in that marriage is fantastic. Okay? And a lot of divorces are based upon other people seeing this cover, right? They'll go out for dinner with them. They'll spend Friday night dinner, or they'll hang out and go on vacation. It looks like everything's fantastic. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Don't be too quick to judge and think that that's fantastic. Okay? This deserves its own hour, hour and a half, 5 hours of discussion. But one of the reasons that we try to make certain boundaries when it comes to relationships between the genders and between husbands and wives is that so that we don't seem to think or don't come to realize that everything is so great over there and what I'm dealing with is terrible. everyone's dealing with stuff, and comparing your relationship to other people's relationship is a dangerous game to play. What can you do about it? Set a boundary up, right? Don't enmesh yourselves into other people's lives all the time. There has to be a healthy boundary between couples. I know to some of you, this may sound very strange, a completely alien concept. Just take it on board. Just take it on board for a moment, even theoretically, that sometimes we have to make healthy boundaries between ourselves and other couples because we see things over there that we think we're lacking in our relationship, but actually we're not. It's just a facade that is being put on. Because when you go to dinner at other people's houses regularly and hang out, it seems like everything is great over there. And how come their marriages? Because they're entertaining you. When the door is closed, you're not seeing what's really happening in the relationship. And that's actually where the entire relationship is founded. And it's true with kids, as we said. Everyone looks at other children, we're like, wow, look at those kids. They're so well behaved. They're so wonderful. Why can't my kids be like that? First of all, you don't know how those kids are behaving at home. You behave better in other people's houses. So do your kids, right? You act crazy at home. So do your kids. So it's unfair to you and to your children, right? To constantly compare them to other children. And one of the things that I, as a parent, and I tell other parents to be careful of, and I do the same thing, is, why can't it be like your friend, I don't know, Yehuda, Menachem, Shusha? They're not meant to be like them because they aren't them. That's why on the other side is honor your mother and father. The children you are given, the spouse you find yourself with, the money you have or don't have, the face you have, everything else is there for a reason. Okay? That is part of the hashgacha concept. And that is one way to overcome it. Realizing, first of all, what we have is given to us. Looking at other people's things is not going to improve my lot because you don't even know what's happening behind their closed doors. They're not as happy as you think. They come with struggles. You want their good stuff? You're going to have to buy the entire package. It's always a package deal. Friends, we've come to the end. Hope you've enjoyed it. A lot more to say on this as the weeks progress. We will delve back into this topic because it's going to overlap with other things we shall be discussing. Wishing you all continued success and blessings and great happiness. Shalom, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks, guys.